Proud supporters of Africa this week. Engine, with us, you are number one.
Welcome back to Africa This Week. The World Federation of Exchanges General Assembly and annual meeting took place in Johannesburg this week. And to find out whether the parameter of regulation is being extended or if the banks are succeeding in pushing it back, Samantha Loring caught up with Ron Arkili, head of the World Federation of Exchanges.
I think we generally, tend to have a number of different topics, but I imagine the one that is probably on everyone's mind is the global economy and whether, there's, going to be a double-dip recession from our friends in the West, and the concern that investors have about the volatility in our stock markets, in our financial markets, and as well, the ability or determination of our political leaders to put politics aside and really do the right thing for their own people, their own markets and their own country.
Talking about volatility, I mean, from a daily basis we see stocks going up 3% and we see them coming back down again 3% the next day. And these are large cap stocks which have been around for many years. You see their market cap can double in one day and halve the next. How does that set the tone for the type of discussions in terms of how exchanges operate?
I think from our perspective, what we need also to make sure that in these times of volatility that all our systems are functioning properly, that there are no quirks or hiccups, because that could create a whole different set of issues and problems and perhaps misunderstandings. So luckily and happily, all of our members are functioning properly and well. But the volatility is maybe a lesson that investors need to take to heart, in the sense that stock markets are for really medium, long-term investments, and hopefully that will help iron out the volatility that you see periodically in times of stress.
Let's talk about how exchanges make their money. What type of trends are we seeing with regards to fees and commissions?
I think as far as that's concerned, the exchange scene, if I could put it that way, is highly competitive today. There are many other alternative trading platforms that are simply trading the shares and do not have any of the regulatory roles that exchanges and the regulators play in the regulated exchange market. So right now, I would think that there's probably an unlevel playing field when it comes to the expectations of the public role that my membership fulfills in their respective jurisdiction, as opposed to the alternate trading platforms, which are simply trading shares, pure and simple.
So how do exchanges then differentiate themselves and make sure that investors see the value of going through the exchange as opposed to these alternate platforms?
I think the traditional and our mandate, so to speak, price discovery, transparency, corporate governance, and the standards, be it accounting or legal, that companies are held to account to when they are issuers in a publicly traded exchange.
Let's look at fixed income markets and listing of bonds on exchanges. That, of course, is the bugbear for the JSE here in South Africa that bought the Bond Exchange of South Africa and looking to automate the trade of bonds. And that's been heavily resisted by stakeholders, particularly on the bond side of things. What type of examples can you cite where we've seen national treasuries and corporate bonds being listed and there's been that successful automation of the bond markets?
I think as far as the bond market is concerned, or fixed income generally, whether you're talking about debt that is issued by governments or whether it's by corporate, so far as I'm aware, the bulk of the trading is really done by the bankers, who generally tend to be taking a position. They are not the intermediaries that you would use if you were to buy or sell a bond on an exchange. So I think for that reason, probably from the point of view of the intermediary or the investor, the price discovery is not transparent.
And that's the biggest issue. That's why many resist it, because of that issue around transparency.
Well, because everyone is saying that I'm a principal, so why do I have to be open? Why do I have to enter the world of transparency and fair price discovery? So commercially, you can criticize them that perhaps they're being not quite fair, but it's really up to the investor whether they want to deal with a bank or whether they want to deal on an exchange. And I imagine as time goes on, you do have investors that have sufficient clout that are able to shift some of that business onto the exchanges, which is good for the whole market.
This week, we also took a look at the future of television programming with Kesha Keeley, President and Managing Director for Discovery Networks, Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East and Africa.
I think that Discovery is when it was launched 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I think had a very core and simple message. It was about satisfying curiosity. So it is about really going after curiosity in the people with a quality content, and we are true to that. We've been true to that for a number of years and true across all the networks. Today in CEMEA alone, we have 10 networks that we're broadcasting, and this is really an overarching aim, and that's why people find so many different spheres, different content, different genres on our channels today.
I mean, here in Africa, we watch it on the DSTV platform, and there's lots of offerings, over 150 channels. And some people would look at Discovery and think it's too esoteric, too niche, as opposed to the entertainment and the celebrity profiles and the other things that they can find on the other channels. Is that problematic for you? Do you often feel that you need to get your content to have a wider appeal, simplify the text?
Well, I actually believe that Discovery Channel has a fairly wide appeal. As you probably know, we are in the entertainment section of the DSTV EPG, and I think that this is really bringing to us a very wide audiences. But we also obviously have a bigger portfolio, and I think that this is very important to say that we had some fantastic developments for the African market. In only 18 months, we have moved from 2 channels to 6 channels, and we're actually this week launching 2 new channels in Africa, which is TLC and ID, Investigation Discovery, which is a great development because we are really building the portfolio to super serve different target groups, with Discovery Channel and Discovery World serving the male target group. TLC and ID will be serving the female target group. Then we have Animal Planet for families, and obviously Discovery HD for those who love technology.
Not everybody has DSTV. They could argue it's very, very expensive if you have to just consider their basic household expenditure. And this raises the question of syndication at a terrestrial level in Africa, how to reach a wider audience on a continent where at times how people spend their money is going to mean that television and particularly bouquet offerings are something that they're prepared to dispose of.
Well, we are a global paid television player in the markets. We're very open to all the opportunities coming from African continent, and I think that we obviously operate with our key partner in Africa is the DSTV, but we also have our offering with other platforms and other distributors, and we're definitely keen to grow and expand in the region.
Technological innovations, the whole world's just moved digital, moved HD. And where do you feature in that spectrum as people start to look for higher quality, better quality, higher frequency viewing?
I think that Discovery is really very well positioned to do that. I think it's important to say that we spend $1 billion on content annually, which is really, we are absolutely a leading producer with non-fiction content in the world. And we are also the company that really is devoted to new technologies. And I think HD specifically, we were the first broadcaster to launch 24/7 HD channels in the world. And the same happened with 3D, where we are the first broadcaster to launch 24/7 channel in 3D, which happened actually earlier this year in the US. And we're rolling that out, we're rolling the content to other territories, so I think that we are really probably one of the best positioned companies to take advantage of all of those developments.
We also took a look at aviation trends and prospects in the aviation industry in Africa with Van Rix Gellard, Vice President for Sales in Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean for Boeing Commercial Airplanes.
Africa has an enormous potential for growth. Right now, Africa, just to let you know, the revenue of Africa represents 2% of the global revenue, which means that, in my vision, within the next 10 to 15 years, it should be at least 10% of the global revenue. For that, we need to be prepared.
Okay, obviously there have been calls for African airlines to modernize their fleet, to start innovating and to start thinking about penetrating new markets internationally. How much attention are airlines actually paying to this call?
Well, there is a lot of activity in that area. As an example, we just talked about, you just heard about Kenya Airways, who's going to be doubling their fleet in the next 10 years. You have Ethiopian Airlines doing the same. You have South African Airlines doing it. So it's a number of airlines right now investing in their fleet to be able to grow and reach other markets.
I mean, there's something like 52 airlines or 53 airlines in Africa, but you've mentioned what we always call the usual suspects, the ones that do really well. A big and highly capitalized airline like KQ, like South African Airways, like Ethiopian Airways, and now we're seeing new ones like Rwanda Air coming to the fore. But the others seem more marginal in the space, and because they're more marginal, they're not really profitable. Because they're not profitable, they're not really investing.
But there are also some wonderful jewels, especially here in South Africa. You have Comair, who is actually investing also in the renewal of their fleet. And as an example, next year Comair will take 4 737-800s, which is going to make a big difference in the marketplace.
Okay, so private airlines also coming to the fore. What I'm about to say to you now, you're not going to like it, but good luck.
Oh.
So the Paris Air Show 2011.
Yes.
And apparently people who were looking said, you know what? Airbus has the upper hand on Boeing.
It was just one day, 1 month. We were just not prepared to actually talk about our newest product. We were working on the 787, working on the 747, and finally we came out and announced the introduction of the 737 MAX, which actually is going to be a huge success in that single-aisle market.
Okay, so how are African airline consumers responding to the new products from Boeing?
Oh, tremendously. Going back as an example of the direct flight non-stop from Dallas to Addis Ababa, Ethiopian Airlines. The flights are doing successfully. They're making a lot of money for the airline, and the customers are getting a much better product.
Okay, we're told that, and this is technicalities here, so help me. We're told that the demand for wide bodies in Africa is now 32%, which is above the global average.
Yes.
So what does it mean when African airlines are ordering wide-bodied aircraft? What does it mean? More traffic? Long-haul routes?
More traffic in long-haul routes, more point-to-point service. Air Austral in Reunion, as an example, flying non-stop from Reunion to Paris. Like I said, Addis, flying non-stop from Addis, Ethiopian from Addis to Washington, D.C. Arik Air in Nigeria, buying 2 747-8s. That's huge. New airplanes, new markets, new opportunities.
I mean, with the amount of technology you invest in coming up with a new product, a better airline, a better airplane, there's a lot of money that goes into that. The affordability of the business in itself in this day.
You're talking about the
profitability
from
Boeing.
The Boeing standpoint. In the past, we used to say that every time we develop a new product, we're betting the company. And it feels that way because it takes billions of dollars to come up with a new product. But if you do it right, like we did it with the 787 and the 747, it's actually fairly rewarding for the investors.
Well, that's all for this edition of Africa This Week. Join us again next week for another roundup of the top stories in Africa. From me, Mashudu Masuta, and the team, it's goodbye.